Hi, Colm. Nice to meet you.
Hello, how are things?
Excellent. How do you pronounce your last name?
Buried.
Bairéad.
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's go then. So we're here with Colm Bairéad, excellent director that, yeah, and we are going to talk about his new film, The Quiet Girl. So the first question is, how important is it to you that the film was being nominated for an Oscar?
Um, I mean, it was an extraordinary experience to be nominated. And a wonderful moment, I guess, for Ireland as a country in terms of our film industry here and so forth, and a wonderful moment for Ireland in terms of the representation of our national language, which is the Irish language, which is a minority language, unfortunately, in our country at the moment. But we made history by being the first Irish language feature film to be nominated for an Oscar. So that was all of those things were wonderful and kind of in some ways kind of life changing. But it's not ultimately the reason that we set out to make the film. We weren't thinking in a strange way. We weren't thinking about anything when we made the film. We were just focused on telling this story and making it as well as we could. And whatever came after that was, what would be would be. So it's been an extraordinary I guess kind of vindication of the film itself that it's received these kind of honors. But as I said, it's not the reason that we set out to make the film in the first place.
Okay, excellent. So the film shows Kate Summer's story and how she learns from her uncles. What do you think about children as the future of society?
Well, children are the future. It's a sort of an obvious statement, I guess, but it's still important that we remind ourselves of the value of the childhood experience, and that we remind ourselves of the importance of respecting the child, um, because it's not certainly in our own instance in our society we failed in that regard. Since we gained our independence a little over 100 years ago, we weren't always living up to, there's a line in our Proclamation of Independence about um, basically about honoring all the children of the nation equally, and that's something that we didn't always live up to as a nation. And hopefully it's it's something that going forward we can be better at, and that we are better at, I think, in a lot of ways. um, but it's important for societies to sort of check themselves and to appraise themselves and see how are they treating children exactly, and just understanding that they are something to be treasured, because they are what our society will become.
Eh, well, Kate was a shy girl, but she expressed her emotions in one way or another. Do you think that body language is stronger than words?
Uh, I think it probably is. I think we spend most of our time saying things that aren't, I think, truly representative of of how we feel. And I think like the subtext of things is more accurately depicted in our physical presence. And I think I think it's a fascinating thing for an audience to observe in a film, like to allow an audience, or to unburden an audience in a sense of the distraction of dialogue, can be, I think, a really enriching experience in terms of how you read a film and how you read character, because it allows you to do something that you're doing in your ordinary life as it is, and that we're constantly reading one another in terms of our physical uh, presence. Um, so yeah, there's something, if you can capture performances that are emotionally truthful in that respect, I think you can create something that is, as I say, quite quite an enriching experience for an audience, and in some ways quite novel because it's hard to find quiet films these days.
Okay, exactly. So, well, in one part of the film, Evelyn says, "If you were mine, I will never leave you in a house with strangers." What was it like to capture maternal love on the screen?
Uh, it was very affecting, I mean, the making of this film from like a personal point of view, from in every aspect of it, like from the writing of the screenplay to the working with the actors to the edit, I was constantly having to immerse myself in my own experiences of childhood and my own exposure to maternal love and paternal love, um, and my memories of being a child, my memories of what it feels like to be confused about adult relationships or to feel fear or to feel joy or to feel confusion about the world around you. So it was a constant process of reconnecting to that state of being on my own part. And that was very affecting because you start to see then your own parents in these figures and you start to relate in a very real way to what's being expressed and also crucially what's not being expressed, that there's as an Irish person, we're not always, and certainly historically haven't always been the best at being our emotional selves. There's been a sort of a lot of repression in the Irish psyche, I think. Um, so all of those things are really present in this story, and so much of that feels very personal to me, and I know the response here in Ireland from audiences in Ireland has been sort of overwhelming, and that people have really identified with the the emotion on display and the emotion being withheld also.
Okay, excellent. Well, I know that the story is based on a book, but I want to ask you what inspires to you to write and direct the film The Quiet Girl?
Uh, there were kind of a few things. I mean, you mentioned it's based on a book, but it's actually not even a novel. It's a very short. It's a short story, really. A kind of a long short story. It's about 85 pages in length. Um, but in a way, like it's the smallness of the story was one of the things that was really appealing to me because I quite like the idea of something that has a sort of a narrative humility, um, that can sort of surprise you. Then that it can that something kind of miniature can take on a magnitude uh, that's not expected. Like there's a great quote by the director Mark Cousins that I used to write on different documents, when I was preparing for the film, and he says that art shows us again and again that if we look closely and openly at a small thing, that we can see a great deal in it. And that was kind of the appeal to me, was to take this small thing and just to look very closely and also listen very closely. I feel like it's a film that's listening very closely. Um, we're looking at this small thing, this almost uh, on the surface, almost inconsequential thing. It's just a girl who stays with two people for the summer and then comes home. But the importance of that, and the once you kind of delve into what that means for those characters, um, it suddenly becomes a huge story in a sense, and a story that has a universality to it, and that people, no matter what culture they come from, um, can find some resonance there.
Okay, excellent. So, Colm, the last one. How was the experience of working with children during the shootings in the film?
Well, I love working with children. Like, oh, this is my first feature film, but all of my short films prior to this, they've all featured, all bar one, they have featured child protagonists. So like I'm very used to working with kids, and um, I don't know, I'm kind of still a child myself in some ways. I just enjoy, you know, I enjoy the way kids have of thinking and of seeing the world, and I enjoy cinema that tries to inhabit that point of view also. I love cinema that deals with childhood. Um, so yeah, it was an amazing experience, you know, and Catherine was an extraordinary um, collaborator and performer. You know, she'd never acted in front of a camera before. This was the first time she'd ever done that. But there was just this beautiful willingness on her part to allow the camera to witness her. Um, there was a real openness to that, you know, to letting the camera do that. Even though she's portraying someone who's very closed, kind of guarded, there's there was a real openness to allow us to witness that sort of vulnerability, you know. Um, so that was, yeah, that was a magical thing to see that, to see her um, deliver that performance, uh, and really was one of the kind of miracles that made the film. Like the film wouldn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation if that performance hadn't delivered. You know, everything rested on her shoulders, and we just feel blessed in a sense that she found us or we found her. I'm not sure which way it worked, but that we came together to make this film.
Okay, excellent. Colm, well, was a real pleasure to talk to you. The film is beautiful. I saw it. So I want to thank you for your time and thank you so much.
Thank you, Lala. Thank you very much.